Good evening, everyone. I'm Cluzel Guevara. Again, we're on Chapter 7 titled Recruiting, Selecting, Training, and Developing Employees. The topic assigned to me is the selection process. For our learning objective, I am responsible in discussing the steps with you in the selection process and the basic selection criteria used by most organizations. On the previous topic, we have discussed the recruitment plan. So, once you have developed your recruitment plan, recruited people, and now have plenty of people to choose from, you can begin the selection process. So, what is a selection process? It is a process of choosing people or choosing from a pool of people who have the right qualifications from within the organization or from outside to fill a current or future job opening. In other words, knowing exactly what you want before even begin the process of looking through resumes will make this process much easier. In human resources, this is called KSAOs or knowledge, skills, abilities, and other personal characteristics that make a person successful on the job. All individuals involved in this hiring process shall be properly trained on the steps for interviewing, including developing criteria, reviewing resumes, developing interview questions, and weighing the candidates. The first aspect to selection is planning the interview process, which includes criteria development. Criteria development means determining which sources of information will be used and how those sources will be scored during the interview. The criteria should be related directly to the job analysis and the job specification. In addition to this, including things like personality or cultural fit, which would also be part of criteria development. So this process usually involves discussing which skills, abilities, and personal characteristics are required to be successful at any given job. By developing the criteria before reviewing any resumes, the HR manager can be sure he or she is being fair in selecting people to interview. Some organizations may need to develop an application or a biographical information sheet. Most of these are completed online and should include information about the candidate, education, and the previous job experience. For the example, this is the criteria for a project management job. This includes the following: 2 years of experience, a bachelor's degree in business or closely related field, ability to work on multiple projects at once, problem solving ability, conflict management ability, and the ability to manage a team of 5 to 6 diverse workers. By setting criteria ahead of time, the hiring team has a clear picture of exactly what qualifications they are looking for. So, as a result, it is easier to determine who should move forward in the selection process. So, for example, if someone does not have a bachelor's degree, given this is a criterion, their application materials can be filed away, perhaps for another job opening. Likewise, the HR manager can include those resumes with 2 or more years of experience and bachelor's degree in the interview file and then develop interview questions that shows the candidate's problem-solving, multitasking, and conflict management abilities. Once the criteria has been developed, which is the step 1, in this process, all applicants must be reviewed and considered for that particular position. As the term sounds, application and resume review is the process of reviewing job application form, resumes, and other various of applicant materials. When reviewing application, one must consider job description and minimum qualifications, ignore name, address, or personal information, ignore style and typographical error, check work experience, and check educational background for qualification. In some case, they ignore address. It is not applicable when I had my OJT with Philippine Airport Ground Support Solution when I trained with the HR department. They asked me to check the address first since they want their employee, soon to be employer rather, to have an ease in transportation going to the airport. For step 4, after the HR manager or a manager have determined which application meet the minimum criteria, he or she must select those people to be interviewed. Interview is a selection test that involves a conversation between an employer and a job applicant. Interview is the most popular device on employee selection, normally done in face-to-face meetings. An interview involves asking a job applicant question to determine whether the applicant is suitable for the position of the employment. Interviews vary in the extent to which they are structured from totally unstructured and freewheeling conversations to a very structured list of questions. Once the field of candidate has been narrowed down, tests can be administered. It includes drug tests, physical tests, personality tests, and cognitive tests. Some organization also performs reference checks, credit report checks, and background checks. The purpose of background checks, as we all know, is that we explore the aspects of an individual's background. But of course, background checks should relate to specific job requirements. So it also in my experience through my OJT, we do background checks through social media such as Facebook. The last step in the selection process is to offer a position to the chosen candidate or making an offer. As we know, candidate communication is critical. So at this point in the selection process, a development of an offer via email or letter is sometimes a more formal part of this process is a good practice. So compensation and benefits will be defined in an offer. So this offer would follow a verbal offer, which would set an expectation for the new employee and clarify any matters that were discussed through selection process. So this step is important because if it isn't done properly, you could lose the candidate. So again, for the key takeaways, selection process refers to the steps involved in choosing someone who has the right qualification to fill a current or future job opening. So the 5 main steps in selection process are: first, criteria that are developed to determine how the person will be chosen. Second is a review of the application and resumes, often done via a computer program that can find keywords. Next is interviewing the employee. The last steps involving testing such as personality test and drug test. And then finally, making the offer to the right candidate. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.